big part of being an entrepreneur and being in real estate is discipline. There are a lot of times that we are told when to get up, what to do, when to do it. And in real estate, you don't have anybody telling you what to do, when to do it, how to do it. You have to either do it or not do it.
What's 1 or 2 steps that they can take today to implement and improve those same principles in their own business and life?
Well, how bad do you want it? And you have to want it so bad that you want it more than air. That's what I wanted. When I wanted to be successful in this industry, I wanted it bad, right? I'm going to be the standard. Like that was my goal, is to be the standard where people come in and go, I want to be like that.
Welcome back to the channel. My name is Tyler Roicki, and today I've got an incredibly special guest who you're going to want to pay close attention to, because I'm sitting down with none other than Raysor, who made the transition from full-time active duty Air Force into real estate. And not only has he built an incredible business, but we've also co-founded a SkillBridge program where we're actively helping men and women from all branches of the military successfully transition into real estate. And if you've ever wondered about how to take your skills from the military and apply them to thrive in this business, this conversation is for you. So Ian, man, thank you for hopping on and joining me here today. Can you introduce yourself? What's your name? What market area do you serve? A little bit about your military background leading up to this point.
Yeah, man. Well, first of all, I appreciate you having me, Tyler, but my name is Raysor. I was born in South Florida. Didn't come from a prestigious background at all. I grew up kind of poor, honestly. I know a lot of people can kind of relate to not really having much to grow up with. But my biggest goal when I was growing up was just to get out of my hometown and to do something different than anybody else that I grew up with. And a big part of that for me was joining the Air Force and joining the military. And so I joined the Air Force as a civil engineer. I was a 3-2 Echo. So essentially I was a civil engineer specialized in pavements and construction equipment, heavy equipment, concrete, asphalt, building runways, a bunch of really cool stuff that we did, in Europe, in the Middle East, all over the place. But essentially, yeah, I went to the military. I was in there for 8 years, 7.5 years active duty, and 6 months in the Air Force Reserves. The Reserves wasn't really for me, but essentially I got my real estate license at the end of my military career, and I was licensed for about, I think, my last 4 months of my military career. And I ended up closing, 4 deals while I was still active duty. And then my business just kind of exploded with consistency, discipline, a lot of things that we're definitely going to talk about in order to be successful in this industry. But I really took a lot of the principles I've learned growing up and being in the military and really applied them to real estate to just become as successful as possible. And obviously I didn't expect it to come as quickly as it did. But then again, a lot of hard work. It comes to fruition if you put in the work for it.
So paint a picture of what your life looked like before diving full force into real estate. What did that day-to-day look like as you were balancing working full-time active duty military, as I've heard you say, working 12-hour days oftentimes, and ultimately planning and preparing that transition full-time into real estate?
So ultimately, it was rough, right? But I was so motivated and dedicated to just becoming as successful as possible in real estate. Because as we're separating from the military, right, there's no guarantees. That's kind of the benefit of the military, is there's stability. There's the ability to be complacent, which I hate that word, but at the same time, that complacency leads to comfortability. And that's why people stay in the military. But if we make that choice to get out, and the military does tell us once we're getting out of the military, hey, you realize how hard it is out there. It's very hard to get a job. You should just re-enlist. And so I'm getting all of that in the back of my mind because I'm going into a field where our paychecks are not guaranteed. But then again, our paychecks are not guaranteed. So it's all about what you do to make as much money as possible. Where in the military, I'm making $40,000 a year as an E5 at the time here in South Carolina. In real estate, I can make that in a month if that's really what I put my mind to and do. And so I really thought about that. So as I was studying for my coursework, what I would basically do in pre-licensing is I would go to work. I would work from 7 a.m. most of the time till about 6 p.m. I would come home. I would go to the gym because I think physical health is extremely important to just being a successful entrepreneur in general and a successful person just with physical and mental health. And essentially I would come back and I would just hit the books and study and study and study. And once I got my license, I just applied that the opposite way. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to go to work, but my main focus is going to be real estate. So while I'm at work, I'm on the job site. Every time I have a break, I have a lunchtime, I am on my phone just learning and setting up my business to build my business as quickly as possible. That way, when I'm out of the military, I have clients coming in and I have pay coming in because I'm the provider for my household. So there was really no way I could fail. When it came down to it, I was working, those 10 to 12 hour days. I understand I was in the Air Force, but I was not in the chair force. I didn't have the ability to just sit inside all day, sit on an office computer. I was out there pouring concrete, building fences, building buildings, just out there sweating and putting in the sweat equity there, which is why my body is so messed up now. But then again, it's all worth it at the end of the day. And so I would come home from working outside, I would shower, I would go to the gym, I would shower again, and then I would just kind of hit the books in another way of saying, okay, what lead generation strategy do I want to dive into to become successful? Obviously, with our brokerage that we have a very good referral network. And so I'm staying on top of those referrals. I'm telling everybody I know that I am a real estate agent. And so I would go into work and be like, guys, I have my license. I have a client that I'm working with. Here's what you can learn about the VA loan. That way you guys could buy property here in the future. And I would just go out and educate people as much as I possibly could. And that was my goal up until I separated in January of 2021 from active duty to go into the Air Force Reserves and pursue real estate full time. So I think staying up most nights until about 3 a.m. and then I would wake up at 6 a.m. for PT, and then I would go do physical training and then come back, shower, go to work, and just do it all over again, man.
And at that point, what were some of the biggest challenges you were facing in the process, and what did that feel like personally?
The biggest thing a lot of us can resonate with is finances, right? Financial contribution to my family. I've always been the provider for everyone in my family. In the military, I was very limited on what I could do. My biggest goal since I was about 12 years old was to retire my dad. That was my biggest thing that I was like, I'm going to do this. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I know I'm going to do it. I always knew from a young age that I was going to use the military as a stepping stone to get to where I want to get to. But realistically, when I was in the military and before I got into real estate, basically before I even decided to get into real estate, I got to South Carolina and I was going to work 12 hours a day and I was coming back and door dashing. I was literally on DoorDash and I was a DoorDash driver and I was trying to make extra money and just make ends meet. I was in a lot of debt, PCSing from Guam to South Carolina. The military didn't cover a lot of my bills. One of my biggest loves in my life is my dog, Bodie. They did not want to pay for him to go from Guam to South Carolina. So I had to pay $6,000 out of my own pocket to get my dog from Guam to South Carolina. For those of you guys who don't know, Guam is pretty much overran with dogs because a lot of military members cannot pay the money to get their dogs from point A to point B. And so they leave their dogs. I could never get myself to ever be at that point. And so I paid all of my money out of savings. And simultaneously, I was buying a house at the same time. So I was buying my first house and I had to pay for that. So I got over here and had around $40 in my checking account and about $150 in my savings account. And so I was doing DoorDash. I was doing whatever I could to get things to get going. And then once obviously I got my real estate license, I said I have to lock in. I have to become a better provider and make more money so I could do the things that I would like to do. So for me, it was mostly financial. That was the big motivation there to just accomplish my goals, my own personal goals, and obviously to live comfortably the way I do now, which is it's a blessing.
So how did real estate even pop onto your radar at first?
So when it came down to getting into real estate, there's a YouTube channel that I had watched a lot, The Trading Fraternity, and Josh pretty much talks about buying real estate. And so that's what I started getting into when I was in Guam. I started really getting into stocks and into real estate. And I would stay up. The stream would basically start. The stock market opened up at around, I think it was 11 p.m. at night. And so the market would open at 11 p.m. on Guam time. So I would basically go to the gym and then I would come home, take a nap, wake up when the market opens, and I would be hooked on there till like 3, 4 a.m. I would go to sleep again, wake up for PT. And I got that notion to buy my first house. I was very fortunate to buy the house that I did buy because I bought my interest rates at 2.5%. which obviously I don't know if we're ever going to see again. So it's a great property that brings me in about $1,000 a month in passive income, which is incredible. Overall, I bought my first house, and in the process, my real estate agent didn't explain anything to me. He didn't know really what he was talking about. He just wrote the offer up. He didn't explain what the offer was, the due diligence periods and appraisal. He would basically say, hey, the lender needs this much money for this. The lender needs this. The lender needs this. And I'm like lost the whole time. And then so finally I PCS over to South Carolina. I move into my house. I bought it sight unseen. And I move in and I didn't even know how to turn on the utilities. I was like, I didn't know I was supposed to call somebody and do this. And it was January when I got to South Carolina. So it was about 30 degrees outside. And so I called my agent and I'm like, what do I do? Like, I don't know what to do right now. And so then all of a sudden he answers and he's like, hey, do this. And so I get set up and I start thinking about it. And I'm like, and then this guy, this real estate agent pulls up and he pulls up in a BMW M4. And I love that car. And he just pulls up and gets out and he's in a nice little, dress shirt with slacks on and shoes and gets out and he's like, hey, here's the rest of your keys. Here's this and this. And I saw in my settlement statement that he had made around, I think, $6,500 from the sale. And so then I was like, man, I mean, he just made this much money. He's driving this car and he's not very good at what he does. If he's can do this and he's not that great, in my opinion, then I can do better if I just apply more. And so that was my biggest thing to say. I think I could get into real estate, but do more and do better and educate people. And that's how I've gotten a lot of my business throughout being a real estate agent, is by education, because the military doesn't teach us how to use our benefits. That's the one negative about the military. But there's a reason for that, right? The military wants you dependent on the military so you stay in the military. If you start learning about opportunities in VR&E programs, VA disability, the VA loan, the GI Bill, and you start doing your research, I can get out of here and make a lot much more money or have more opportunity to make more money. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to take it upon myself to make my value proposition as somebody who is going to teach all of our service members, servicemen and women, and everybody about the benefits that there are with buying real estate, using your military benefits. And I still do that to this day. And, it's been incredible. And yeah, that was pretty much it. I mean, I saw him pull up and I was like, I can do better. Overall, now that guy, I probably 10X everything he does, which is absolutely incredible. And it just goes to show, like, that's the mindset I had kind of going into it. And it's just led to incredible things, man.
So we got connected, obviously, as you were finishing up your licensing process and beginning to explore your options as far as brokerages and whatnot. But what is it that drew you in specifically to the community that we have within the herd on the brokerage side of things?
I think it's exactly like you just said. It was the community with it. So I interviewed with, I think, 8 to 10 other brokerages. And if you guys are getting your real estate license, I would recommend that you do so, right? You interview with everybody around you. That way you can see who has to offer what, because it's very funny to think back on those interviews. And I would walk into these brokerages and the other agents would almost look at you with a little bit of disgust of saying, oh, here's another new agent who's trying to take food off of my table. Here's another agent who thinks they're going to do something, but they're not. And I remember RE/MAX, and I have a hatred for RE/MAX because of what they told me. They said that you are going to be lucky to close maybe 2 to 3 deals your first year, and we're going to start you out with leases. So that way we can put you on with some leases and maybe get you a buyer or two. But realistically, that's what you should expect for your first year. And I had talked to other brokerages and they were talking the same way to me. They were like, hey, maybe you'll close 3 to 5 your first year. Maybe you'll do this. And then I talked to you and it was like, well, what do you think you can do? Well, I think I could do a hell of a lot more than 4 to 5 deals in a year. And that was the opportunity that I saw, where it was like a breath of fresh air to come in and to say, hey, you can cover whatever grounds you want to cover. And here in South Carolina, we are in kind of a smaller market, right? So I'm in the Sumter, Columbia area. And then I wanted to cover down to Charleston because I love Charleston. I think it's a great city. And we own a house down in Charleston while my wife was still in the military. And so I was like, I want to cover all of these different areas. And these other brokerages were like, we don't want you to cover those other areas. If you want to go to Columbia, you need to refer the business to another RE/MAX agent in Columbia. Or if you want to go to Charleston, I have to talk to that broker down there to see if they're going to allow you to go to Charleston. And I was like, how does that make any sense? But then when I talked to you and I looked at the EXP brokerage, And I go, I can do anything I want. I'm a true solo agent. It's whatever you want to do. That's the capability that you have. And so also talking to you about the whole community aspect of saying, hey, there's other veterans in this community. There's other people that are top producing agents in their markets that we can collaborate with and bounce ideas off of. And so it was the flexibility and the freedom. And then not to mention with our brokerage, it was the ownership side, because I told you in the beginning of this call that, hey, I really love stocks. I love investing. I think about it nonstop, even to this day with everything. And so with that being said, and then I find out that our brokerage allows ownership in the form of stock, a publicly traded stock on the NASDAQ. And with that being said, I'm like, wait, I can become an owner in this company while I'm selling real estate, and I'm able to sell real estate wherever the hell I want to in this state of South Carolina, because that's where I'm licensed. If I want to go to Myrtle Beach, I can go to Myrtle Beach. No one's going to say anything. And so I just have to learn those areas and learn those markets. That way, obviously, I can serve those clients the best. But overall, when it comes down to it, I have the ability to go where I want to go and do everything I want to do. And the fact, too, that if I did become successful, we have our cap that we hit. And then we have another level. You guys can see the sign behind me. It says Icon Agent right there. That's something that we can strive to do and be. And I accomplished that in my first year, which was absolutely incredible. And it's funny looking back and saying, hey, I closed 41 deals my first year in the business when every other brokerage here in the area closed around, told me I was going to close around 3 to 5, if that. And so seeing those brokerages now reaching out to me going, hey, come to our brokerage. We really want you. We really want you. And being able to say, no, I'm good to go. It's a pretty surreal feeling.
In thinking back to your first few weeks, even first few months in the business, what was going through your mind as you were taking those initial steps? I mean, did you have any doubts or fears as you were making this transition? And if so, how did you push through those?
So I've always had a lot of confidence in everything I've done. And when I go into something, I dive in. I full dive in. I burn the boats per se, right? And so essentially what I do is I lock into that idea, and I knew I was going to be successful in this industry. The fear mostly came from, it's funny, the fear didn't necessarily come from me. Now, obviously, no matter what, I'm a very analytical person. And so I like to think about, okay, if this doesn't go well, I can pivot to this, or I can do this. But I never had the thought in my mind that I was going to fail at this. I don't know why. And I think about it a lot because I picture myself in those moments when I first got my license and I was laying awake in my bed just staring at the ceiling. And I'm thinking, I just know I'm going to be successful. I just don't know how or how I'm going to do it necessarily. I didn't necessarily have those doubts or fears. It was the people around me. Mostly my wife looked at me and she goes, are you sure about this? This is a industry. I read this. I saw this online. I was on TikTok and somebody was saying this. And then I'm just like, I'm good. I'm good to go. And so I just dove all in. I had a plan with saying, hey, this is how I want to get my leads. This is how I want to accomplish and become a top producing agent. And confidence is one of my core values that I have, where I'm saying, hey, if you don't have confidence, you're not going to be successful as a real estate agent or as anything in life, right? The wealthiest people are the most confident people. And I've always thought about that and known that. And I just applied that confidence. So, I had just the ability to say, hey, if I need to pivot, I can. But I just knew I was going to be successful in this industry. And I feel like that confidence did lead to me getting a lot of opportunities when I first got licensed, when I would call other agents about referrals or other buyers or sellers that I meet, and I'm able to talk to them in the most confident tone. And the first thing they would always say is they would go, how long have you been licensed? It sounds like you've been licensed at least 4 to 5 years. And I would tell them, no, I've been licensed about a month. I've been licensed about 3 weeks. And then they go, that's absolutely incredible. You just don't sound like you've been licensed 3 weeks. And then that kind of got me thinking, well, how does somebody talk when they're freshly licensed? And a lot of people have that doubt. And that doubt makes you stutter. That doubt makes you question and second guess everything that you're saying. And a lot of people, I know I hear this a lot of people get like imposter syndrome from being in real estate and being a new agent, when that's not necessarily the case. Because when we get our real estate license, we are looked at as real estate professionals from day one, right? Anybody on this that watches this can get their real estate license. You are going to be looked at as the same level as me or any other top producing agent, because we are real estate agents. We are professionals in this industry. So people look at you as a professional. So you have to have the confidence as a professional to get it done.
So crazy to think just 4 years ago, you were at ground zero and building up that initial momentum towards your first few wins. But fast forward today, I mean, where are you at in your business today?
So I am closing in on my 200th transaction total. I am having the best year of my career right now. I closed 41 deals my first year, and this year I'm going to close around 60 is basically what it's shaping out to be. Closing in on I should be around 15, 16 million, if not more in production, which is absolutely incredible. In my first year, I had a very good year. I did 9.2 million my first full year, which is great. And, realistically, when it came down to it, I closed 4 deals my first 6 months in the industry, and I closed 37 in the last 6 months. And a lot of that was just because of the work that you put into it. And real estate is a long-term game. You're thinking about the next month and the next 2 months, the next 6 months. And a lot of agents that I talk to, when someone says, hey, I'm not ready to buy right now, I might be ready to buy it a year from now. And they let those people go. They just don't talk to them anymore because that instant gratification of getting a buyer or seller right then and there isn't there. So people just don't follow up. And that's the one thing I know a lot of agents are not good at. When you ask other agents, what are you bad at? And they'll say, follow up. I think that's absolutely ridiculous because it's the easiest thing you could possibly do, is to send a text message every couple of months or give them a phone call or drop by and see people. And so that's what I did over a consistent basis. And people said, hey, I'm not ready to buy right now, but come holler at me in 6 months. And I did that, and I kept up with them, and they go, yeah, I'm ready to buy right now. And then that all happened at one time. I remember telling you this, it was March of 2022. I closed 7 deals that month. I don't think anybody in the organization had ever closed that many deals in a month before. And that was my first year. That was my 7th month in the industry. And so I went from 4 deals my first 6 to 7 in a month. And I remember, I don't know why, March and May are like my 2 greatest months I always have, year after year after year, which is just crazy.
Man, so what's it feel like to actually make that change and to go from active duty military to building a career in real estate? I mean, what are you able to do today in your life that you weren't able to do before? And how has that impacted the people around you, like your family and the people you work with, and even other members of the military who might be watching this?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we talked about the financial aspect of it, and I think that's, like I said, that's the biggest struggle with Americans right now is how little we have, and how expensive everything is. And you're saying like where I'm at today, like what does it result in? It results in I can go to the grocery store and not look at how much I'm spending. I can grab what I want to grab and get to the line and do what I got to do. And I love to give back to other people. I've always been this way, where even when I didn't have much, I would say, hey, if I see someone that needed help, I would want to help them. And even if I got to like a high level of like a millionaire, like multi-millionaire, like I would love to just give back to other people in such a great way. And now I get to the line and I see someone who is struggling that might be paying with the food stamp card, because I know exactly what that card looks like because I grew up on that stuff. And so I can look at it and be like, hey, no, I got your groceries today. It's perfectly fine. And spend $50, $100 extra on groceries because I can. I'm not worried about that stuff, which is a blessing to say, but that's what real estate has given me. That's what my hard work has given me. In the military, we're capped. No matter how good of an airman you are, a soldier, a Marine, a sailor, you are capped at whatever you do. Our only promotion is our promotion. And even the promotion, you look at the pay scale, it's $200, $300 a month. That's $150 every 2 weeks that you got for getting more work put on your plate. Because when I went from an E4, and I know a lot of people can relate that are service members, when you go from an E4 to an E5, you go from a junior enlisted member to an NCO, a non-commissioned officer. And when you do that, your workload increases. You are now in a supervisor role. You're in a leadership role, whether you like it or not. And you have so much more responsibility, and you're staying late writing performance reports, you're getting shredded from your leadership when somebody does something and you're like, I didn't do it. My troop did it. But because your troop did it, it's your fault. And so I was getting just hammered with all of this stuff. And I'm like, I took a pay cut because in Guam, we get so many allowances. We get COLA, which is cost of living allowance. We get utility allowance because it's so expensive over there. We get paid more. And then I came here, I made $72,000 as an E4 in Guam. I came to South Carolina. My LES at the end of the year was $42,000 that year. I took a $30,000 pay cut to come from Guam to South Carolina. And it's something that a lot of us service members talk about when you go from overseas to stateside, because you just make a lot less money. And overall, being in real estate has given me the ability to give back to other people. And the most important thing is I was able to accomplish my lifelong goal. Earlier this year, for my dad's birthday, I was able to give him a call and say, hey, I have a present for you. And he goes, well, what are you sending me now? And I'm like, I'm not sending you anywhere. I want you to quit your job. And he looked at me and he goes, what are you talking about? I said, I want you to quit your job. I got it. And me being able to say that, even to this day, still gives me like chills. And it's to the point where I can look at him and go, I got it. You don't have to worry about it. You can live your life the way you want to. You've put in work for 55 years, and now you are able to live the rest of your life the way that you want to. And that's what I was able to do. That's what real estate was able to do for me. When in the military, at this point, I would be on my 11th year in the military. And even if you do 20 years, I know there might be some people that might want to do careers in the military. That's perfectly fine. Because if you do 20 years in the military, you get retirement, you get VA disability, you still have all of your benefits. You get a lot more benefits as a retiree than you do even as just a veteran. Me staying in the military, I wouldn't have been able to retire my dad. I wouldn't be able to say, hey, I'm a huge Carolina Panthers fan. You guys can see the helmet up there. And I can go to a game whenever I want to. I can sit front row if I want to. I can go in the luxury suites if I want to. Those are all things that I can do because of the work that I put in, because of the opportunity that real estate and this brokerage has given back to me. Because once we are an Icon agent, we get all of our cap back that we put in stock. And then that just grows over time. So I have a little real estate 401k. I have my own investments with crypto, with stocks, with gold, with silver. I'm able to buy real estate properties myself. I'm in the process of buying 2 more houses by the end of this year. And it's just incredible what I'm able to do, where I can comfortably say by 2030, I'm going to be a millionaire from the benefits that the military gave me, from what the military gave me, from discipline, from consistency, from standards, to going into real estate and applying those things and becoming very successful and working very hard. And now I'm at the point where, it's becoming a millionaire is going to be a reality, right? It's less of a dream and more of a reality that's coming true day after day, which is incredible.
So looking back, what lessons would you say that you gained from your experience in the military that have been most valuable for you in real estate? And can you give any examples of how you've applied those lessons in growing your business?
Yeah, I mean, realistically, when it comes down to it, I think a big part of being an entrepreneur and being in real estate is discipline. I think that's the first of my core values is discipline. And there were a lot of times that, we are told when to get up, what to do, when to do it. And in real estate, you don't have anybody telling you what to do, when to do it, how to do it. You have to either do it or not do it. And that's, I think, the biggest portion of why people aren't successful in this industry, because they don't have somebody that's telling them what to do. Or that's why people join teams where these teams take 50% of their commission because they have someone that's telling them what to do and when to do it. I think one of the biggest things I can think about is, having the discipline to kind of just get up and get it done. And in the military, we all do that. Like when we're in there, especially on deployments, I remember my first deployment. We were working, we were pouring concrete. I think it was like 14, 16-hour days. We would basically get done with that. And I was still so disciplined and consistent that I wanted to still go to the gym. And so I would get done pouring concrete for 18 hours on a runway. And, I would go to the gym, and then I would get done at the gym, and then I would go to sleep, get about 4 or 5 hours of sleep. And then I would go and do it again the next day. And on deployments, we only get 1 day off a week, if that. So we would work 6 days a week, and we would choose either a Saturday or Sunday to take off. And sometimes you would get called in on that day off. And that's what your life is for 6 months. So when I look at where I really built my discipline, I think it was really on that deployment. And that was my first deployment that I did go on. And we were just working so hard. And also, while I'm doing all of that, I'm going to school. I was in school taking classes. So I was taking a math and an English class while I was deployed. So I would come back from the gym, I would do my schoolwork, and I was working towards my college credits because I am the only person in my family's history to have a college education, right? I'm the only person in my family's history to make over 6 figures. Like, I'm that outlier. And I feel like a big part of that was the discipline that I built in the military. But a lot of people, when they get out of the military, they let that discipline slip. And I know it's important to kind of calm down your nerves and have that mental kind of stability back and everything because of toxic leadership and everything else in the military. But I think my deployment, when I really look back at it, is the core reason of how I built that discipline to say, all right, I don't want to do it, but I have to. I'm going to. And now the difference is I can have that same mindset, except if I do have that same mindset, I can make multiple six figures with that mindset instead of, oh, I'm going to make $40,000 this year and I'm going to still have to go drive for DoorDash when I get back and, hope that I can get by on paying my mortgage and my other bills. So I think when I look back at my military career, my deployment was the turning point. And I deployed when I deployed back in 2015, the late 2015. So realistically, I was 21 years old. And that's when I did my first deployment.
So for agents who are watching this right now and they want tactical advice, people who may or may not have the same kind of background and experience you had in the military, but what's one or two steps that they can take today to implement and improve those same principles in their own business and life?
Well, at the end of the day, it's how bad you want it, right? I mean, that's the biggest thing that you could tell anybody. And I know that's the biggest thing that people see on podcasts and on videos is people saying, well, how bad do you want it? And you have to want it so bad that you want it more than air. Like you just want it. And that's what I wanted. When I wanted to be successful in this industry, I wanted it bad. Like I came into the organization and I remember talking to you about this. I was like, I'm going to be your top producing agent. Like I'm going to outproduce everybody. I remember saying that to other people when I would first meet them when we went to EXPCon back in Vegas. And I would look at it and be like, I'm going to be the guy, right? I'm going to be the standard. Like that was my goal, is to be the standard where people come in and go, I want to be like that. And overall, that's just the direction that I kind of carried myself in to get to the point where I'm like, okay, even if you're getting started in this industry, discipline is free. We don't have to pay for it. You have to pay for it in a way of sacrificing happiness sometimes, of sacrificing sleep and sacrificing family time. And that's the thing is when I first got my license, and I still do this now, right? Where I drop everything. If I have an opportunity and someone goes, hey, I want to go see a house, I drop what I'm doing and I will go do that. Someone said right now, I want to go look at a house. I'm dropping this call and I'm going to go show them the house, right? But overall, it's that discipline and consistency, and you can't, that's the good and bad thing about it is you can't teach it, right? You can build it over time because consistency can be built, but I feel like consistency is more of an external thing when I feel like discipline is more internal. Because discipline is like, okay, you don't have anyone looking at you or telling you that you're supposed to go out and do this. Do you go and do it anyways, right? How accountable do you keep yourself? And I feel like that's really what discipline is. So that's why, in terms of my core values, that's why discipline is number one.
So let's talk SkillBridge, about the program we've built together. What exactly is SkillBridge for those who don't really know about it? And why is it so important for service members today who are thinking about what that next step in their careers and lives might be?
Yeah, SkillBridge is a massively great program that is not talked about at all. And funny enough, I actually got declined for SkillBridge by my commander. So I understand for some of y'all watching, not everybody has the ability to do SkillBridge due to leadership. SkillBridge is a program that allows you to take up to, it used to be 180 days off your active duty contract. They've kind of trimmed it down to around 120, but you could take 120 days, which is about, 4 months, off of your active duty contract to intern or OJT with an outside company or corporation in any field that you want to get into. So the company that we built with AMF, Alpha Mike Foxtrot, otherwise known as Adios Motherfucker, is the fact that you're transitioning out of the military to get licensed in real estate and to crush it in real estate. That is what our SkillBridge program is. But if you're interested in IT, in tech, computer science, law enforcement, like you could do anything you want with that SkillBridge program. And it's amazing because these companies love it because you are free labor for them, but then you are interning and you are able to get it done. So when it comes down to our program, we allow people to start fresh. You don't have to be licensed. You don't have to know anything about real estate besides watching this and saying, okay, I want to get into real estate. And then you start SkillBridge and you can take your real estate course get licensed in our program and learn from me and learn from Tyler. And Tyler's one of the top team builders in real estate. I'm one of the top producers in real estate. And so when it comes down to it, you're learning from two great people in two different fields where you can kind of pick and choose, and you're going to take all of these pros from professionals, right? And so you're able to get paid by the military to learn from us, to learn how to become a great real estate agent. And then once you get out of the program, you're going to have a clientele, you're going to have a client base, you're going to know what you're doing, you're going to have your business profile set up. You're going to be basically on a different stratosphere than anybody else getting licensed. I would take anyone from our SkillBridge program and pair them up with any other person that got licensed, and the people that come from our program are going to wipe the floor with anybody based on them knowing about the different types of loans, obviously the ins and outs of the VA loan, more importantly, because we are military members, so we should understand our own benefits to the highest ability. And so our SkillBridge program allows you to come in, get licensed, learn from the best people, and then get out of the military. And that way, if you want to pursue real estate full-time, great. But if you want to do it even part-time, you have learned a skill set that is just invaluable, in my opinion. And so, yeah, SkillBridge is a fantastic program. If your leadership can't approve you for it, I would highly recommend you do it. Even if you want to do real estate, if you want to get into IT, cyber, whatever it might be, do SkillBridge. And it's an incredible program.
So thinking ahead, where do you see this going in the next few years, and what would you say excites you most about the opportunity looking forward?
I think overall there is a big stigma in real estate, right? That you're not going to make it. And that's, I know we talked about is a lot of people join the industry and they don't have the mentorship. And I think that is what I see is we are growing at an extremely fast rate with the amount of people that are coming through our program because of what we teach and how valuable the information is that we do teach. But then we are going to have mentors within our own program of people who have come through and are closing deals and becoming top producing agents in their own state and city, because you could do this anywhere in the country, by the way. We have people in Dallas, Sacramento, San Diego, Wisconsin, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Georgia. Doesn't matter. We have people all over the place. And so then we are going to have mentors within our program. And as we are building just a unique group of veterans that understand the ins and outs of the real estate industry. And we're just going to continue to grow. And what that really means is that means we get to educate more people. We get to educate more service members about the benefits, about the VA loan, the GI Bill, the TSP, TA, all of these benefits that we have in the military. We are able to educate, which if we can educate one person, that person's going to go educate somebody else, and that person's going to go educate somebody else, and it spreads. That knowledge spreads. And the great thing about that knowledge is the fact that it's life-changing knowledge. It's life-changing facts that you can apply to build wealth. And that's the biggest thing that most Americans are missing is the opportunity to build wealth or to own real estate and to build assets. That's what we are truly teaching people, which means that we are changing their lives. Like, unlike car salesmen that talk about, oh, I could change lives. No, you're selling them a depreciating asset, a dream. We don't sell the dreams, man. We provide the tools for you to achieve your goals and to accomplish the dreams that you do have.
So final point here, man, for someone who's made it this far in the video, they've surely resonated with your story and everything you've been able to accomplish up to this point. They're inspired. But for someone who feels stuck and unsure about making the next move for themselves and their business in life, whether they're military or civilian, what would you tell them?
I mean, at the end of the day, nothing comes without hard work, but it's getting into a field. You know, I had a very good conversation with a friend the other day, and he works a very, very good job. He works for a bunch of other people. And military or civilian, the one thing that most people have in common is you have a boss. You have a boss. And I don't know about you guys, but I could never imagine myself ever working for anybody else ever again. It's not a thought in my mind. I know you probably have the same thought of, I just can't imagine someone telling me, hey, no, you need to come in and you need to do this. That's just not it for me. So I would say to accomplish your goals is most people want that freedom, whether it's time freedom, freedom of finance, of being able to do what you want when you want to do it. Now, obviously, unless you're born into a wealthy family, you have to go make that happen for yourself. And the biggest thing I would say, obviously, military, civilian, doesn't matter, is become the outlier, right? Become the person that changes the tree of your whole family. Your family tree has been growing and growing and growing. And for most people, everyone in your family has been average, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're watching this, and especially if you've gotten to this point, we're 40 minutes in at this point. If you've gotten to this point, you don't want to be average. And if that's the case, you can be the person that changes everything for your family, whether it's through education, whether it's through the financial gain of you changing your life, right? There's so much that we can do. And I just really have never been at the thought process of, I've always thought about just changing lives and being able to change my own life. And it's just absolutely incredible that I am where I am today, where I can do that on a greater scale. And we're just going to keep growing and going. Like we're just growing. And for those of you guys that are just thinking about, well, how can I do that? It starts with first investing in yourself. And investing in yourself is, reading books. Obviously, I know you've read it. You guys can see it kind of in the background. The Richest Man in Babylon is one of my favorite books that I read nonstop. And that's why it just kind of sits there on my desk. But overall, it's paying yourself. And whether that's through knowledge, education, through finances, doing whatever you can to, just escape the rat race and, provide for yourself and your family. I just think it's possible for anybody. I didn't grow up with anything. I didn't grow up with money. And I've built what I've built today, through real estate and through just discipline and hard work.
Ian, man, this has been incredible. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here and for sharing the lessons you've carried away from your experience in the military into real estate. And for those of you who are watching, if you're active duty military right now and curious about real estate or the SkillBridge program that we run, check out the link in the description below. We'll have all the information you need there. And maybe you're not military, but you're active in the real estate business. You're an agent, you're making things happen, regardless what market area is. If anything that Ian shared resonated with you, connect with us. We'd love to have a conversation. You never know what might be on the other side of it. Sometimes it leads to referral opportunities. Other times it leads to bigger opportunities, but you never know if you don't initiate that conversation. So reach out and connect with us. You'll see a way to do that in the description below. And I'll also have Ian's social media handles as well if you want to check out and follow along what he's doing, online as far as live videos and whatnot. And if you're an agent looking to grow, don't just take notes, take action, because knowing what you need to do and doing it are two different things. In fact, it's your actions that prove that you know what you actually know. And if your thoughts and actions aren't in alignment, start to take the steps to move accordingly. So if you got value out of this in some way, you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. That way you don't miss more of the content and conversations we have in the future. You'll be seeing more of Ian in the future. So if you want to make sure you don't miss it, make sure that you hit that button so that you see it. And with that in mind, Ian, thank you again, brother, for taking the time to be here.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
And for everyone else, thank you for watching. Until next time, I'll look forward to seeing you on the next video. Peace.